last comment?
Yeah, no, I mean, you didn't did Paul,
Paul,
you have
did you have something to
any
say?
viewpoint to say?
The only thing I say is Salt Lake Radio is good, business, and I'm all for giving them money, especially if it ain't mine, so.
I've given them quite a bit in the last couple of years, trust me.
Yeah, no, I think,
There's an
yeah,
honest
we'll
man.
have some more discussion tomorrow. I just wanted to make sure that get the state officer's viewpoint while we have a chance. So.
Okay. All right, so I wanted to bring up another item, but we're not going to really discuss it for very long. The resolution that we tabled at the convention, namely to raise the limit on what you can allocate from 100 or whatever it is to 500.
The $500, the 122B was a $500 rule to raise it to $1,500.
500 to
From
1,500.
500 to 1,500. That one is resurfacing, and I suppose Don knows all about that. There's some.
It's resurfacing with at least now 3 councils going to be advocating for it. Something happened in Coeur d'Alene, which was impacted by the ability not to give more than $500, something that was critical and was not budgeted. And so St. Thomas is very strongly in support of it now, and one other council up that way.
Okay, so this will resurface. Again, we tabled it because we really didn't know what to do with it. And
Well,
so
what I would recommend is having Ken send it to Supreme and see what they say about it, even though we didn't vote on it. That way we know if it has a chance to move forward next year if we approve it and submit it.
Try to back channel with McCaffrey on this, okay? And he says, we got to think that maybe in the United States, 1,500 isn't a lot of money. Go to the Philippines. Go to Ukraine. Go to Poland. You know, that's a lot of money. And if we go through the resolution bit, it's going to become, and Supreme puts it in, that's going to be worldwide.
Yeah.
So when I had talked to, who did I talk? Dave Rizzoni. And I said, listen, and I checked with George and Dan. We said, you're coming up on your budget, put it in as a line item in your budget and have it where 3 officers or a certain amount of officers have to okay it, but you don't have to go through your whole council and do 2 months. You can release that within,
Or do
just like we do pennies from heaven.
do a day email vote or 2-day email vote.
Yeah, but the bottom line here,
To
the council
approve it.
has already
The council.
approved the expenditure,
Yeah.
put money in as a line item,
Yeah.
so they don't need a resolution.
Except that the line item that they were talking about at St. Thomas had to do with a priest who died in Nairobi under very strange conditions. His brother was a priest in Coeur d'Alene, and he had to make an emergency trip home to the family. That's not something you can budget for in advance unless you put some nebulous thing out there,
But-
emergency funds, which then if 3 people can vote on it, that's even a bigger can of worms, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, but it's much better than giving it to one person the power to do that.
And it's not one person, it still requires a vote in the council meeting. It doesn't require 2 months worth of meetings to have it be done. That's what the problem is right now. And if you talk about 1,500 is a lot of money in the Philippines, 500 is a lot of money in the Philippines too.
Mhm.
And if they're gonna be corrupt over 1,500, they be corrupt over 500 as well. So to me, that argument doesn't hold water.
I guess the point is, it's a much bigger consideration than just Coeur d'Alene and what's going on there.
And the council I'm involved with in California also would support. So it's more than just Coeur d'Alene, but I think if it went to councils nationwide, it would probably pass.
Well, my only point is, if we put it up there, it's gonna go to Supreme, and Supreme's gonna look at the whole order as a whole and decide how we would do this.
And if they kill it, it's a done deal. It's dead. If they approve it, then it goes forward.
Yeah, and I
Make
think
the decision.
the key is having it better written, because when I read it, it just didn't make sense to me last year.
So in that case, we'll rework it. Councils that have a problem with it should revise their budget to handle it this year. And we'll go forward on the resolution in April. And I'd like you to be a part of the team that crafts it. All right. I didn't really want to spend a whole lot of time on it. I just wanted everybody to be aware of it. And that'll be something that'll be brewing all year long up to the convention. Last thing I want to bring up, because it's getting close to 5 and we have a 5 o'clock dinner reservation across the parking lot at Black Bear. Okay, for 10 people. So anybody else that wants to come, you're welcome. Yes, there's wives too. So I only made it for 10. I was a guess, but I'm sure it's not going to be a problem if we're getting there at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. The last item I wanted to bring up is where was it? That was a really scintillating conversation. The new key executive. All right. Right now, depending on which Wells Fargo office you go to, you may or may not be able to add somebody and subtract somebody. So Paul and I went to the Wells Fargo in Mountain Home thinking we'd have him able to sign checks tonight. And the lady we got said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. You don't have signature authority by yourself. You and one other officer would have to come to get him signed, get signature authority for him, or to remove somebody." And I'm like, okay. So I worked 4 hours for 5 hours while we were driving. Maggie drove, and I just did nothing but work the whole way over here on Knights of Columbus. So, well, I called around and finally found which bank was closest to this hotel, which is the Overland Bank. And then I got somebody who said, "Well, you're not a key executive, but John is. John's a key executive. He could sign Paul up all by himself anytime. Just Paul has to be there to put his signature on the card because he's the only key executive for our account." So I said to her, sorry, my wife thought this was horrible. "What happens if John gets run over by a bus?" And she says, "Well, then it's going to be a real problem for you guys. Are you with the state? Are you with the Secretary of State? Are you registered?" She couldn't find us. There are many Knights of Columbus councils registered with the Secretary of State of Idaho, but not the state council. So I said, "Well, what do we have to do?" And she says, "Well, we need, proof of that you're an actual, organization." So I sent her the state meeting minutes, the Form 111, Form 189, and the Form 365. And she says, "All right, good. We can get you registered. Now we need your key executive to come down." So what I want to bring to the officer's attention, and we could vote on this tonight, is do we think it's fair to only have one key executive? Because if John's on vacation, if John, Lord help us, something bad happens to John.
When I had signature, me and Shane just went down to the Wells Fargo on Center Street, and me and George just
Yes, we did that too.
we did the Wells
Depends.
Fargo in Idaho Falls.
Here's the problem.
What the heck has happened?
I don't know. I know that I talked to 3 different bankers. I got 3 different answers. Okay. So, but we are definitely not registered with the Secretary of State. Council 98011 is not registered. We need to do that. And we should probably have another key executive because basically John owns the account. He's the only one that can walk in there and say, "I want so-and-so removed," or "I want so-and-so added." It was 2 of us that we did it when we did it. Right. So, I can't make the motion, but if anybody else would like to make a motion that we have a second key executive, which
You
we're allowed to
don't
have.
need, you don't need a motion. Let's just do it.
So
If you want one, I'll make one. I make a motion, Paul Petro be a key executive.
keys, yeah, that makes sense because he'll be around for a while.
I don't know about that.
But you're, in your job, you need to do that.
Unless they walk around the same bus.
Who's the youngest?
I think it's Paul, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I think I'm.
Nick.
Like, notice.
Well, Nick's not an officer right
No.
now. You definitely are. I looked it up.
I think I set up.
So anybody want to make a second?
I'll second.
All right.
So just out of point of clarity, you're creating another person who can go in by themselves and do something on their own, is what you're creating.
Yes.
Instead of just having one person that could go in and do something on their own, now you're making
Just
two
because-
people that can
Because
go in and do
I'm
something.
He's a
imagining.
skydiver.
But
scuba
otherwise
diver.
it'd have to be two people. Is that what you're saying? It's like
Depending on-
two people can,
No,
depending on where you go.
no, that's not true. It depends on which banker you get.
Yeah.
That's the problem with them. I mean, they have rules, but they all interpret them differently, so, you know. But if you're a key executive, you can add somebody. You know how often this happens, Nick? Whenever you change state treasurers,
Right.
that's it.
Well, every 2 years, right?
Well, in this case, it's every year.
Yeah.
So if we add Paul, it doesn't mean both he and I are gonna have to go
No,
and just.
either one or the other.
And that make that.
That sounds like a good idea.
All right, all in favor, I'm calling for the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I,
Motion carries anyway. Thank you, and with that, I want to conclude our meeting. Thank you for all being here. We're going to adjourn for dinner over at the Black Bear, which is, as you walk out the door, just keep going straight and you'll wind up with the Black Bear.
Joe, are you doing? Good. Come back and help me with my computer.
We will now have before we do that, we're gonna have a closing prayer.
Can we leave our stuff in here, George?
I think so. Worthy State Lord, will you please lead us in a closing prayer? It can be grace if you wish.
Since we're headed out for dinner, let's I'll be thankful we're here. We're on behalf of the state, and bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts, which are by our receipt from thy bounty, Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Father and Son and Spirit and Spirit. Amen.
Now the wife wants to do it over again when we get there, so.
That's fine. And now I'll declare this meeting adjourned. Please be here by 6:45.